So President Trump released a statement that reads in part, "Wow, on Sunday night, while I was with my family, having just arrived from the Turning Point event in Florida, where I won the straw poll against everyone else by 85.7%, blah, 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 I received horrifying news for our country by my attorneys. Deranged Jack Smith, the prosecutor with Joe Biden's DOJ, sent a letter. Again, it was Sunday night, stating that I am a target of the Jan 6th grand jury investigation, giving a very short 4 days to report to the grand jury, which almost always means an arrest and an indictment." So let me start with you on that, Dave. As a prosecutor, he's correct, is he not? That getting this kind of a letter from the DOJ means he's about to get arrested and indicted.
Yes, Megyn, good to be back with you. He is correct. He is going to be indicted. It's just a question of when, and it's going to happen sooner than later. He's being invited to testify before the grand jury, but no one believes he's actually going to do that. In fact, prosecutors don't expect him to do that. It's just a courtesy you give to a defendant who's a target, who's going to be indicted. And you hope that he comes and testifies, because that's usually goes poorly for the future defendant. But he's not going to show up there because he's not going to get immunity. And they are just going to move ahead with this case, which I think is not as strong of a case as the document matter, but I think is more understandable to the public. The public saw what happened on January 6th, so I think this will be something that's easier to sell to the public than the document case.
Mike, indicted on what? We don't know. But like the Alvin Bragg case, we had an idea where that one was going. The documents case, we had an idea, like a pretty good idea. This one, I don't know what they're going to indict him on in connection with January 6th. What do you think?
Well, it's very interesting, Megyn. We've been talking about this since August. This is part of the Democrat lawfare campaign against President Trump. They fear they can't beat him in November of 2024, so they're simply going to indict him and try to get him to die in prison instead of facing Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom. And so the theory, I think, that I've been seeing leaked improperly to the press is that they're going to charge Trump maybe with some sort of conspiracy to overturn the election, maybe file false electors or false paperwork to the election regarding the 2020 election certification. The problem with this theory is you are allowed to object to presidential elections in America. It's specifically permitted by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. You're also allowed to twist arms politically in America. That is allowed under the First Amendment. If it were, it's only a crime to object to presidential elections in third world Marxist hellholes. And if it's a crime to object to a presidential election, Democrats would be in prison for objecting to Republican wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, and 2016. What Garland and Smith seem to be doing is trying to lump everyone together on January 6th, a protest, a lawful protest from the National Park Service that got out of control and turned into a riot, and somehow put all that together into this legal soup and come up with this bogus legal theory that Jack Smith he's good at this. He's good at coming up with bogus legal theories against Republican presidential contenders that later get overturned unanimously by the Supreme Court.
That's his specialty. What a specialty. Dave, I understand as a lawyer a possible charge of inciting a riot, which is one of the things that they've discussed. I don't think that's going anywhere because Trump's speech that day specifically said, be peaceful. And it wasn't, I think they're going to have a very difficult time getting past his First Amendment rights in trying to turn that speech into a crime. So I don't think that's what's going to come. If you read more left-leaning websites by lawyers who wanted to see this happen, this is what I've come up with in trying to understand what we might expect here. That Trump wanted to use false electoral slates to obstruct the Congress's certification of the election. So basically, obstruction of Congress. That is what Andy McCarthy has also predicted this will likely be about. This is some months ago, not today, but that's what he was predicting, obstruction of Congress. 18 U.S.C. Section 1512 prohibits the obstruction of an official proceeding. Could be that. Also linked to it, that he wanted Mike Pence to block certification or to delay the count of the Electoral College. And then that he wanted fraudulent electoral certificates and submitted the same to Congress. He basically, certifications, he didn't want the actual vote that was coming in from the states to be certified because he said that it was fraudulent. And his last resort was triggering an insurrection. Of course, we've heard that from the Dems, to delay the transfer of power. What do you think of those possibilities?
Megyn, I don't think he's going to be charged with insurrection, and I don't think he's going to be charged with inciting a riot or inciting an insurrection. I agree with you that the First Amendment is broad and it protects his speech. I do think he's going to be charged with obstruction of an official proceeding and or obstruction of Congress. And I think he'll be charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States. These are crimes that many other rioters from January 6th have been charged with. And you don't have to be there at the Capitol to be charged with those crimes. There's also the possibility of wire fraud if he was involved with the fake elector scheme. And there's the possibility of fraud when it comes to the fundraising that occurred. He raised $250 million supposedly for his legal defense fund, and it was sent to other places. So I think those are the potential charges. Get back something that I want to differ with my friend Mike about the fake elector scheme. You know, in a couple of the states where they had the fake electors, they actually had disclaimer language on the bottom that says—
forgive me, Dave, forgive me. Let me just jump in. Can you just explain for people who aren't following this that closely, what were the fake electors, the so-called fake electors?
Sure. The states provide electors to the Congress to be counted. That's what Mike Pence has to open and count. And there are several states where individuals send a false state of electors saying, we are the real electors and here are Arizona's electors. And that was false. That could be considered wire fraud. That could be considered altering an official document as far as a state law. So that's the crime. Now, in a couple of the states, the people who signed on to these as electors said that we are alternate electors in case there's a dispute over the electors. So in that case, that's not a crime. In fact, Jack Smith will not prosecute in those states because that disclaimer language protects you. But in the majority of the states that provided this language, they didn't say we're alternate electors. They said we are the real electors. And that's a fraud. And that's something you can't do. And I think that's going to be prosecuted.
What do you make of that one, Mike? The false electors claim, I confess, confuses me because, you know, I know this is related to the now infamous John Eastman memo, this lawyer who is advising Trump, and he's come under much scrutiny for this plan. But the thought that instead of taking the real electors that were coming out of certain states, Trump worked with his legal team and others to create a false slate of electors. I mean, it was all out in the open. It wasn't secret because he said those states' votes were fraudulent and he wanted the vote to come down a different way. Again, all out in the open, not in any way a secret, hoping that Mike Pence then, as the guy whose real sole job was he was supposed to just count what was coming in, that he would reject the actual slate in favor of the, quote, fake slate. So that how is that, how do you see all of that? And then I'll go back to Dave on the rest of what he was going to discuss. Go ahead.
I see this as a bogus legal theory to try to criminalize the political process. And that's what Jack Smith has a track record of doing. He did this with Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell when Bob McDonnell was a likely Republican presidential contender in 2016. Jack Smith came up with a bogus legal theory of corruption, got Bob McDonnell convicted. It was overturned unanimously, 8-0 by the Supreme Court. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia died. But Jack Smith did what he wanted to do, which is take out a Republican presidential candidate. This guy is a partisan. He's doing the same thing to Trump. This is a bogus legal theory. They are criminalizing conduct that is protected by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. It's also protected by the First Amendment.
Do you see those dark spots in the mirror? You want help making them go away? Introducing the Dark Spot Corrector from Genucel, right in time for summer. The Dark Spot Corrector, with not one but 3 cutting-edge ingredients, goes to work fast to target sunspots, dark spots, liver spots, even old discoloration, both on your face and your hands. You can now enjoy your summer sun, beach, and barbecues without those spots with Genucel. And thanks to Genucel, you will see results or you will see your money come back to you, no questions asked. So go to Genucel.com right now. Get your dark spot corrector with the new Genucel most popular package, now featuring summer essentials like the best-selling Ultra Retinol Moisturizer that has a powerful retinol alternative for safe use in the summer sun. Visit Genucel.com/MK60 for these amazing summer essentials and save over 70% off Genucel's most popular package. Free shipping, free returns, and excellent luxury skincare, all at 70% off. Genucel.com/MK60, GENUCEL.com/MK60. All orders include a mystery gift while supplies last. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.